In Lesson 5.1, we're going to talk about ratios. So first, let's talk about what a ratio is. A ratio is a way to compare two different items. So we're gonna write ratios in three ways. One, you'll write it with words. 5 to 7. One, you're gonna write it with a colon. 5 dot dot 7, that's a colon. And one, you're gonna write it as a fraction. 5 over 7. The same can be true for letters. So they already gave you the colon one. So the first one that's missing is the words. So we would say A to B. And then the other one that's missing is the fraction, A over B. Notice that in both of them, you have to keep the order the same. That's very important. Order is extremely important when talking about ratios. And equivalent ratios are two or more ratios that simplify to the same ratio. Kind of like equivalent fractions, fractions that can reduce down to the same number. The same thing is true with ratios. You can reduce or simplify a ratio. Okay, so pause the video and fill that in before moving on to some examples. Okay, we're going to try an example here, and then you're going to have a quick check. In the first example, we're going to write a ratio from a word problem. So we have to follow the order and pull out the information that we need. So first, we're going to put red stripes on the left and white stripes on the right. So there are 7 red stripes and 6 white stripes. So I can say 7 to 6. They want me to do this in 3 ways. I can also do 7 colon 6, or I could do 7 over 6. Notice that in all of them, the red stripes came first. Okay, you always want to keep the same order. So now in the quick check, you're going to use this little keyboard over here, and you're going to answer these questions. You're going to write each ratio in 3 ways, and you're going to do 3 answers here and 3 answers for B. Okay, you're going to write them in words with the colon and with the fraction. Okay, so each of these quick checks, you need 3 answers. Okay, so use this picture, count up the number of keys, and write your 3 ratios. Pause the video, try that quick check before moving on to the next part. Now we're going to write some equivalent ratios. So they're going to give you a ratio, 14 to 4, and they're going to ask you to write some equivalent ratios. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide the numerator and the denominator by, they chose 2 because it's the GCF. It's the greatest common factor. So 2 goes into 14 and 4. So you can divide them both and you get 7 over 2. So that's an equivalent ratio because I reduced it. Now, when you have units, okay, I have 2 pounds and 56 ounces. You have to make your units match. If you're going to simplify, okay? So to turn pounds into ounces, there are 16 ounces in each pound. So 2 pounds is really 32 ounces. Now I can reduce 32 and 56. What's the greatest number that goes into both of those? It would be 8. So I'm going to divide both by 8. 32 divided by 8 is 4, and 56 divided by 8 is 7. So my simplest form answer is 4/7. Okay, so before you can reduce, you need to make the units match. And pounds and ounces were two different units. Now, if it's something like girls and boys, you can't make that match. But if it is two units that you can make match, you must make the match. Okay, so pause the video, fill that in before moving on to the next part. Okay, now we're going to talk about girls and boys, and this happens a lot. The ratio of girls to boys enrolled at King Middle School is 15:16. There are 195 girls and 208 boys in grade 8. Is the ratio of girls to boys in grade 8 equivalent to the ratio of girls to boys in the entire school? Now, here's where order matters. Well, it always matters, but this is where it really comes into play. If they say girls to boys in the words, then that means when they give you these two numbers, 15 to 16, that means the first number is girls and the second number is boys. Okay, they'll tell you the order in the problem, you just have to look for the words. Because in a ratio, there's no units there, 15 to 16. How do I know which one is girls and boys? Look for the words. The first word is the first number, and the second word is the second number. Here, they were nicer and put the units with the numbers. So the entire school is this ratio. Remember, girls is the first number, because that's the word that came first, so 15/16. In the 8th grade, I'm going to use the bigger numbers, 195 girls and 208 boys. Is the ratio equivalent? I want to know, are these two fractions equivalent? Is 15/16 the same as 195/208? Well, these are pretty big answers, or pretty big fractions, so use a calculator to divide. Okay, so if I do 15 divided by 16, I get 0.9375. And if I do 195 divided by 208, I also get 0.9375. So since the two decimals are equal, I got the same number, then the ratio of girls to boys in grade 8 is equivalent to the ratio of girls to boys in the entire school. All right, so now you're going to try the quick checks. Pause the video if you need to fill that in before moving on. But in the quick checks, in quick check 2, you're just going to find any ratio that's equivalent to 7/9. So since you can't reduce 7/9, you can multiply the top and bottom by any number you want and come up with an equivalent fraction. In quick check 3, write the ratio of 3 gallons to 10 quarts as a fraction in simplest form. You need to make these match. And then reduce. Okay, so remember how many quarts are in a gallon. And then in number 4, tell whether these ratios, here's one ratio, here's the other ratio. Here's 1, that's to 7, and then here's the other one. And 180, the fractions are a little bit easier to see. Tell whether these two ratios are equivalent, meaning they're equal, or not equivalent. They're not equal. And it's easier to use a calculator for this. If they divide to be the same decimal, say yes. If not, say no. So pause the video and try those quick checks, and we'll check your work in class.